Dominic Toretto is a fearless street racer, auto mechanic, possible superhero, family man, and now, football manager.
Sorry, what?
Look, football is a family sport, and what's more important to Dominic Toretto than
Family.
So we're going to see how many trophies Dom Toretto can win across the football world, or if this new mission is going to crash and burn horrendously. Now, I'm aware that this isn't the easiest of transitions to make for a man of Dominic Toretto's talents, so we do let him gain some experience as a coach with Souza Esporte Clube in the Brazilian Série C for about 6 months or so, before leaving that job to let him live his coaching life a quarter mile at a time. He's got the qualifications as a motivator, a people manager, training the youth, plus the ability to see the true potential in those around them. His tactics are going to be more of a focus on attacking first and asking questions later, and well, I'm sure he'll figure out the rest as he goes.
Then you better get started.
His first job would take him to the other side of the globe, as it is the land of the rising sun that comes calling. His first destination is the J-League, and in this case, the J2 League side, Tokyo Verdy, who are taking their chances on the rookie manager. His first year on the job, he does not disappoint as he gets Tokyo Verdy promoted to the J1 League via a second place finish. Not to mention, he did have Verdy only 1 point away from the J2 League title itself, but a loss against third place Ventforet at Kofu on the last day of the season ensured that he'd go without a league title. But year 2 is already looking up with Toretto having gotten the boys to the J1, a league that has seen itself being dominated in recent years by the likes of Kawasaki Frontale and Yokohama F. Marinos. His attempt at it in year 2 doesn't go to plan, but a 5th place finish with only being 10 points away from league champions Kashiwa Reysol isn't a bad start. But in cup competitions, Toretto would deliver Tokyo Verdy's first Emperor's Cup in 20 years by beating out teams such as Cerezo Osaka, Urawa Red Diamonds, Kyoto Sanga, and eventually winning it all in a dramatic penalty kick shootout against Kawasaki Frontale. Year 3 did see Verdy not being able to repeat their Emperor's Cup success in even the League Cup, as Gamba Osaka were their boogeyman throughout the entire season, even keeping them from a top 3 finish and forcing Verdy to settle for 4th place in the J1. However, that top 4 finish was an improvement on last season, and it would guarantee Tokyo Verdy an AFC Champions League berth next season. But with 2026 in year 4 of the Tokyo Verdy stint for Dominic Toretto, it would not be so kind to him as the team struggled throughout the year, and in a tough J1 league overall, they ended up in 8th place and had as many draws as they had wins throughout the year, which made the difference between championship glory and being just a top half team. A second round stumble in the Emperor's Cup to Vegalta Sendai, and then an eventual loss in the AFC Champions League to South Korea's Ulsan Hyundai only added to the pain of the overall campaign. Year 5 saw the most competitive J-League to date, but a bittersweet note for Verdy as they were 2 points away from winning the title, where a pair of losses to eventual champions Kawasaki Frontale and FC Tokyo in the final 2 matches of the season sealed said 5th place. But Dom Toretto did return the team to glory as Tokyo Verdy won their second Emperor's Cup in another thrilling penalty kick shootout, this time against Gamba Osaka. But rather than building on another cup win, year 6 ended up being another inconsistent mess, and Tokyo Verdy's worst finish to date in 10th place, along with losing out early in all of their other competitions. With only 1 year left in his contract, Toretto would need to deliver something magical to be considered for another extension. And in year 7, he delivered Tokyo Verdy's best season yet in his run as manager. A 3rd place, 6 points separated from the J1 champions, but with help of foreign striker Gabor Barta, Toretto guided Tokyo Verdy to their 3rd Emperor's Cup in 7 years with a solid 3-1 win over Fagiano Okayama in the final. However, not even this achievement was enough as Tokyo Verdy decided to let Toretto's contract run out at the end of January 2030, and after a 7-year stint, Dom was free to go wherever the road took him. But we would not get that answer as to where until a few months later, when Fiorentina finally brought him on board in August 2030, only to fire him 6 months later due to poor performance.
What?
An unexpected turn of events, but Toretto did not appear to be deterred, as he remained in Italy over the next few months and was eventually picked up by Serie B club Regina 1914 for his 9th year as manager. Dom would remain there again for 6 months. This time he would leave to take a job back in Serie A, this time as Spezia's manager, where he would work to and then eventually help the club remain in the Serie A mid-table. His 10th season as manager would start with Spezia, and the team itself would end up being relegated. However, Dominic Toretto was not there to see himself going down along with the ship, as the Spezia board of directors fired him from the position in February after a series of poor results that had only seen the club win 4 times in total up to that point. It was clear that the clubs in Italy did not quite welcome Dominic Toretto into their family. Either that, or it's something to do with the events in the Vatican from Fast X all those years ago, but that's neither here nor there. After being fired from Spezia, Toretto remained out of the public eye for a few months, but he would resurface once again to take a new job in mid-August 2033 with Brazil powerhouse Santos, who were currently trying to retain their status as one of the 3 remaining clubs in all of Brazil who had never been relegated from the top level of Brazilian football. In his 11th season as a manager, Toretto was about to face his biggest challenge to date. But it turns out that all you need to do to stave away relegation woes is
family, 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 family.
Because with Toretto's guiding hands behind the wheel and the foot on the gas, Santos did enough to get themselves out of the relegation zone and into 11th place. This would set the tone moving forward, as Season 12 saw Toretto deliver a Campeonato Paulista win against São Paulo FC and a top 4 finish in the Campeonato Brasileiro, along with winning the 2034 award for Best Brazilian Coach in the state of São Paulo. While both Seasons 13 and 14 would see Santos in 5th place in the Campeonato Brasileiro, it would be in Season 14 where Dominic Toretto would have his greatest achievement to date, with a 2nd straight Campeonato Paulista, followed by Santos having a dominant performance that saw them win the Copa Libertadores. Not to mention, a Copa do Brasil being added in Season 15 to his trophy cabinet, proving fully that Dom Toretto's teams know how to win cups across the globe. However, the fairy tale and cup wins with Santos would come to a bitter end in Season 15, as Toretto was fired by the Santos board of directors in September of 2037 after the club's poor run of form in the Campeonato Brasileiro in the mid-season, along with eliminations in the Copa Libertadores, Copa do Brasil, and the FIFA Club World Cup. While this run had delivered an iconic club like Santos more trophies, the lack of a league title on a nationwide scale for Dominic Toretto throughout the years is something that's been lacking altogether. But it wouldn't be for too long until he made his next move, because 3 months after his dismissal from Santos, Dom Toretto was hired just before the start of the 2038 season by his hometown club, Los Angeles FC in the MLS. It turns out that when you are in doubt, sometimes the best medicine is just to go home. Because in Toretto's 16th season as a manager, he leads LAFC to glory by winning the MLS Western Conference, the Lamar Hunt US Open Cup, and most importantly, the MLS Cup after a thrilling 2-1 game against Eastern Conference winners in FC Cincinnati. His accolades also earn him the MLS Coach of the Year award. But it's in Season 17 that Toretto takes it into overdrive. Because not only does LAFC repeat as Western Conference, MLS Cup, and US Open Cup champions, but they also qualify for the 2nd stage of the North American Champions League and win the Campeones Cup matchup against Liga MX winners Cruz Azul in extra time. Those are more than enough to earn him his 2nd straight MLS Coach of the Year award. But instead of aiming for a 2nd Continental Cup win to go along with his Copa Libertadores, 2040 brings a new twist in the managerial career of Dominic Toretto.
It's you I want, because you and I can help each other get what we both need.
I'm listening.
His home country calls upon him to lead the charge as Toretto accepts the manager position for the USA men's national team. Toretto proves to be a perfect fit, as the USMNT goes on an unprecedented run during the next 2 years, winning the North American Nations League in 2040, going undefeated in the entirety of 2041, capping the year off by winning the Gold Cup, and then in 2042, winning the World Cup and making the United States the first country in North America to win the trophy. 35 games in total during his stint as the USA head coach, with 33 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss. With the draw and loss coming from friendlies, it's an absolute dominant run in the international stage, with the highest prize achieved in the process, which is more than enough to have plenty of teams from Europe calling Dominic Toretto left, right, and center after his World Cup achievements. Remembering the way in which his managerial stints in Italy ended, it's not long after this World Cup success in which Dominic Toretto resigns from his head coach role with Team USA and takes a job with an unlikely team, Germany's Bayer Leverkusen. It seemed the challenge of dethroning Bayern and Dortmund was too alluring for Toretto even as he was getting older. His 21st season as a manager, he did manage to keep Leverkusen in the top 4 of the Bundesliga in a year where Borussia Dortmund didn't bottle a title fight for once. But once again, Toretto proved that he still had the touch when it comes to cup wins, as he wins Leverkusen their 3rd overall DFB Pokal by defeating Dortmund at that. But most importantly, they get an UEFA Europa Conference League title win against the team that fired him a decade ago in Fiorentina.
Thing about street fights, the street always wins.
Charged up from a double last season, year 22 in 2044 would come, and with it, the start would not be the greatest, as the DFB Super Cup would be lost in penalty kicks against Dortmund. And not to mention Bayern would regain their throne in the Bundesliga yet again, while Leverkusen finished in 4th. But while the Bundesliga wasn't won, the DFB Pokal was successfully defended by Toretto, and this season's win of that was in a massive Rhineland derby against FC Cologne. But the biggest feather in Dominic Toretto's cap to date would come in this year's edition of the Champions League. While the group stage outing had its bumps on the road, Leverkusen dealt with fellow Bundesliga foes in Hoffenheim before running through an English Premier League gauntlet with teams such as Tottenham Hotspur, Manchester City, and Newcastle United in order to reach the final against Chelsea. And it would be a final to remember for Dominic Toretto and Bayer Leverkusen as they conquered Chelsea 2-0 and won the Champions League. The game would turn out to be the very last one of Dominic Toretto's career as a manager, as he finally made the choice to retire soon after that Champions League final. Overall, Dominic Toretto's career as a football manager was not one of winning leagues. Even through multiple attempts in the J-League, Campeonato Brasileiro, Serie A, Bundesliga, and the MLS, he only ended up with 6 league titles in total. But when it came to winning cups, Dom Toretto basically became a specialist at it. Outside of his short stints in Italy, he won cups wherever else he went. 14 cups in total, including the World Cup in the process. It's one hell of a career, especially for someone who started it in his mid-40s. But for now, it is time for Dominic Toretto to ride into the sunset after reaching the summit of the mountain in both club and international competitions in his final years. Because if you're to ask the man himself,
The most important thing in life will always be the people in this room. Right here. Right now.
until next time, salud mi familia.